G'day everyone, it's D-Mac from NBA Fantasy Bible, and along with me is Puppy Roy from NBA Fantasy Puppy, and today we are between two hoops. How are you, Puppy?
I'm super hyped. I actually just finished working. Hopefully, no one from work is watching this. But I'm super keen. I'm super excited to talk about the trades. Finally, it's not at least underwhelming so far, and we still have an hour.
We still have an hour to go. We're going into our last hour as we speak. There has been a lot of trades in the last couple of hours, and we'll go through those shortly. I'd just like to say that Kayla will join us in about an hour as well. She's got a couple of other commitments, but yeah, we'll go through that and review all the trades up to this point and beyond as well. But let's get straight into it, shall we, Roy?
Let's do this. Shout out to Josh
Okay.
Lloyd.
Yes, let's do it. So the first one that happened just about a couple of hours ago, the Pacers traded Buddy Hield to the 76ers for Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, and 3 second-round picks. Thoughts on that, Roy? I know you've just come out of a meeting. Initial thoughts?
Well, initial thoughts for me. For with respect to the Philadelphia 76ers, I hope Joel Embiid eventually gets healthy because they Buddy Hield is gonna help them. They finally have a very solid shooter, possibly after after JJ Redick. I think JJ Redick was the last straight up shooter. So Tyrese Maxey holding the ball. You have Joel Embiid on the front. Then you have a shooter like Buddy Hield. Super excited. I'm pretty sure he's gonna ding one of my favorite NBA nickname ever, Tsunami Papi. So Kelly Ray's value is gonna go down. Buddy Hield, I'm not expecting that high, but think of it as Buddy Hield getting better opportunities from what he is actually getting from Indiana Pacers. So not super hype, but he's gonna be a contributor in the Philadelphia 76ers, especially while Embiid is out. On the other hand, for the Indiana Pacers, someone that I really stashed, Aaron Nesmith. I think Aaron Nesmith kind of like really glued his role as their eventually shooter of the future. Thing about him and Buddy Hield, he defends better, at least activity wise. So I'm assuming that Nesmith kind of like really established the role that he has. I'm gonna look at Ben Mathurin with this move as well because it kind of like clears all the usage in the in the bench. And when you talk about usage, I don't think Ben Mathurin is really shy to use that. So yeah, that's my initial thoughts on this trade.
I completely agree. I think Buddy Hield is an ad in most situations. Benedict Mathurin, we know that his fantasy stat set doesn't always turn into a lot of value in category leagues. I think he's more suited to points leagues, but I still think he's someone to at least consider in a 12-teamer. The other guys there, Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, I don't think you need to consider those guys in a standard league. But yeah, there was even talk of Andrew Nembhard gaining some value as well. He's a little bit iffy for me. I think he's another just guy to watch at this stage. But Hield, Naismith are the ones for myself from this trade. And I'd just like to know, let people know as well that we are taking questions, and we've got our first question as well. And we'll get to all the trades shortly. So I'll bring up the question when we do get to the actual trade in question. But second one here, Utah Jazz made a move. So sent Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji to the Raptors for Kyra Lewis and Otto Porter Jr. and a 2024 first-round pick. First thoughts?
Welcome to Team Canada.
Yeah, he's
so
back. He's back
it,
home.
it it seems Toronto is really sticking to their roots in recreating Team Canada. Fantasy wise, I'm expecting an uptick for Kelly Olynyk, especially that I don't think this is the last trade for the Toronto Raptors. If some of players gets traded as well, it gives more space for Kelly Olynyk to provide value. Because good thing about Kelly Olynyk is a glue guy. So give him 25 minutes, gonna give you several stats, right? Most of them are out of position stats, like giving you dimes, giving you triples from a center or PF position. So that's good for me. The value went up, not up like must add, but for me, as of the moment, possibly is one of the top winners for me. Looking at the direction if Toronto will eventually, just let them play. And terms of Agbaji, dynasty wise, I would definitely monitor Agbaji. Uh, I started it as a joke, but when I came to think of it, it could be true that Toronto might see him as their next uh, OG because their names are almost similar. So what a way to start off the
Yeah, why
comparison.
not?
But
Absolutely.
they gave a fair early round pick, right? So it seems like they're a little bit, I don't know, high on either of both. But since Agbaji showed us a glimpse of how he could actually defend in his in his time in Utah. So I would assume there could be a solid role for Agbaji. It's still for me an assumption. It's still a floating expectation, but who knows? So down the road, in terms of fantasy, maybe in deeper leagues, he gets some run, right? Especially if the likes of Bruce Bowen gets traded. On the flip side, for the Utah Jazz, I'm not interested with the pieces they got. I'm more interested that for with the pieces that they already have. The likes of Walker Kessler maybe gets a bump in minutes and usage. Finally gets unleashed. I was about to joke because I was a little busy, but I was planning to joke. Finally, the best big in Utah gets unleashed, named Lucas Samanich. So, but who knows? But speaking of Luka Samanic, you should also look at Tyler Henrik as well as a possible player to get some opportunities down the road. But again, we still have an hour. I really would try to hold back my thoughts for Utah Jazz because in Toronto, I think they are buyers and most likely sellers for this trade deadline.
Yeah, I'd agree. And just going back to Kelly Olynyk, a later trade happened as well where Thad Young was moved. So that opens up a little bit
Oh,
more
there you
minutes
go.
as well for Kelly Olynyk to play at the 4 and also play at the 5 behind Jakob Poeltl as well. So that definitely helps. In terms of Utah, you mentioned Taylor Hendricks. So I think there's a little bit of hype around that rookie. So I think he's one to consider. For me, he's not a must roster guy, but one to consider. You mentioned Walker Kessler. I think he's definitely going to get a massive boost. I would expect him to enter the starting 5. John Collins moved down to the 4 and Larry Markkinen moved down to the 3. But let's see how it plays out. But that's my prediction. But like you said, with 54 minutes to go until trade deadline, a few more moves could be made. But at this stage, they're the evaluations right now. Moving on to the next one. And yeah, keep the questions coming. And then as soon as there's a question related to what we're talking about on the screen, I'll bring it up on screen as well. So keep them coming, guys. All right, next one. OKC Thunder traded Trey Mann and Davis Bertans to the Hornets for Gordon Hayward. The Thunder also included Mičić and draft compensation. Thoughts?
In reality, I love this. I think OKC is really in it to win it. They are doing well with the current roster that they have, which they actually kind of like strategized like way back. They they did the whole organization did a good job and acquiring a solid vet that is eager to be in a winning team that is eager to contribute. For me, in reality, that's very solid. I think he could definitely lose value in the OKC rotation. But I think um, down the road he could be someone who could surprise us as a solid streaming option. Why? Because they are going to the playoffs. If I was the coach of the OKC Thunder, I would ensure that Gordon Hayward gets familiarized with how the system works and what's best to do that for him to really play more minutes with them. So I'm expecting a transition and eventually get around I don't know 20 to 25 minutes. Thing about Gordon Hayward is he kind of like wants to have a solid role whenever he goes to a team. He's low key that guy. So I'm thinking around 20 to 25 minutes, which dinks the upside of the Cason Wallaces and the I don't know who else is their bench. Possibly the Wiggins, those players who usually from time to time contributes. It kind of like dinged right now with the presence of Gordon Hayward. On the flip
Yeah.
side, Hornets down the road, Treyman. I would definitely have a good look at Treyman. if in deep leagues, I would actually add him. Just because if the only players that are staying in the Charlotte Hornets is a Lamelo Ball that could see it, Miles Bridges, and then who else is there? Brad Miller, um, and then no one else. Maybe Cody. So if that's the case, calculate the usage. There's gonna be opportunity, and we've already saw what Treyman can do whenever we're in the post almost over regular season. Wherein OKC really pulls in some players out of their bench. So yeah, Treyman, watch out for Treyman. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he can contribute right away, but I'm pretty sure down the road there's gonna be someone we could add.
I completely agree. I think he's not necessarily a must roster guy in 12s at this stage, but definitely one to consider and one to keep a lookout for as well moving forward. Next one, 76ers traded Daniel House, and as of 30 seconds ago, he's since been waived by the Pistons. So that means nothing to us at the moment. So we can quickly skip that one. So it didn't mean much at the time and definitely means less right now. Next one is the Knicks. Now, Knicks have been very active and they've actually been one of the big winners of trade deadlines so far. But they've acquired Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks from Detroit Pistons. And the Pistons, on the flip side, acquired Quentin Grimes, Malachi Flynn, Evan Fournier, and Archie Conado, and 2 second-round picks as well. So Knicks, I think, have strengthened their team. They've got some nice depth in terms of their shooting, but I think it does ding some of the value of guys like Dante DiVincenzo, even a Josh Hart, some of those likes as well.
Yeah, totally agree. Essentially, in reality, this is a good move in fantasy. You know the reason why I hope the people that are watching us right now, if you come to think of it, it's an easy computation because majority of the players involved are usage getter. Their main category is scoring and mostly 3 points. So if that's the case, if you go to another team wherein there are already primary players, then the expectation is it will go down. So I think that's gonna happen here. Someone that I would love to really watch moving forward is number one is going to be Osar Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully this is the way finally Detroit. I know sometimes we don't know what you're doing, but I hope you eventually know what you're gonna do with Oscar Thompson. Another one here is it's going to be tricky between Q Grimes and Simone from Utah because both are good shooters and good defenders. And knowing how Coach Monty handles his team, he loves a shooter around. So whoever gets a primary role as their main 3 and D guy should be added. As of the moment, I'm looking at Simon Fontesio from the Utah Jazz to get value as well. But again, I'm also in my peripherals. I'm also considering Q Grimes because Q Grimes is a good player.
I've got a question here. It's more like a statement. It's a bit of both. But Dent has asked, would you agree that after the trade deadline, the biggest fantasy winner is Asar Thompson? So this is related to this particular trade. I think he's definitely a winner of this trade. We'll see if he is the biggest winner. But yeah, he's definitely a must roster guy at this stage. Simone Fontecchio may take away a little bit of his shots and a little bit of minutes, but I think Asar Thompson just has to be had. So yeah, definitely a winner so far. Moving to the next one, Washington Wizards sent Daniel Gafford. So this is a big one. Sent Daniel Gafford to the Dallas Mavericks for Rashawn Holmes and draft compensation. So now we're teaming up Daniel Gafford with Derek Lively at the Mavs. Initial thoughts, Puppy?
Well, this is unfortunate for Daniel Gafford owners. Um, let's just assume that they're gonna actually share time as of the moment, just because I'm thinking if I was Jason Kidd, there's a good chance he actually plays Dan Gafford more than Lively, just because of the tendencies in the past wherein he actually plays lesser of the younger players. But Lively has been playing his hearts out. So again, let's just assume it's 50-50. So for me, the move here is just to hold and let's just watch. Unfortunately, rest of the season it won't be as what is we expected to start of the season, right? It's gonna go down. On the flip side, Rishon Holmes. Remember when Marvin Bagley and Rishon Holmes are playing together in the Sacramento Kings? Who's
Hmm.
better, T-Mac? Who do you think was better?
Of course, it was Rashawn Holmes. He was a fantasy darling not too long ago, and he
Exactly.
got paid very, very well as well.
Yeah. So I'm thinking personally. I'm thinking because I also don't trust how Wizards handle their players. I'm thinking Marvin Bagley gets the first crack to be their center, but eventually they'll notice, oh, Rishon Holmes is better. Then they're gonna switch. Either ways, you should add both.
Yeah, for me, Bagley's probably more of the ad ahead of Rashawn Holmes at this stage. I think Rashawn Holmes has really dropped off from his days at Sacramento, but um, he's got that fantasy stat set behind him. So it would not surprise me if Rashawn Holmes did overtake Bagley, but Bagley for now. And so I think he is an ad. That goes to Sammy Lombardo's question as well. Are we adding Holmes? So you've just answered that one, Puppy Roy. So you are adding Holmes?
Yeah, just to add, actually Dimac actually explained it better. Wherein we could also see Holmes not playing because he has been playing for the longest time, right? But the reason why I suggest for you to add on, especially if you have more ad transaction, is GTD. So you can easily put him in your IL plus just in case you have, and then see what's gonna happen. So it's it's a lesser pain if it didn't work well because you just placed him there. But again, deeper leagues for sure. Standard leagues, probably not yet.
You're right. Okay, and it takes us to the next question as well. Should I drop Royce O'Neal and add Rashawn Holmes? So Royce O'Neal's actually been a part of a trade as well, which we haven't gotten to as of yet, but that's gone down. He's going to the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
So it's a 20-man league. He's currently in first place for the last 13 weeks. So Clyde's doing very well.
Uh, my question here is Joshua Kogi still a Phoenix Sun? Because
Yep, he is.
if that's the case, well, 100% sure Royce O'Neal's value is gonna go down. The
They've
reason why
also
I
acquired David Roddy as well from Memphis. So
oh, there you
it's
go.
pretty heavy in the wing position.
So there's a lot. So yeah, I'm gonna add Holmes if that's the case.
Yeah. Another one, similar ilk from Sang. Bagley or Quickly? I know which way I'm going.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer you quickly. Quickly.
Done. And another similar one from Splashman. Bagley, Quickly, bit of a theme. Brogdon, Vince. Pick one in a points league. This is where we need
Ooh,
Kayla with her points league expertise.
exactly. To be honest, I'm actually thinking it could be an easy answer with Emmanuel quickly, but I'm also looking at the rest of the season value with Vince because Memphis, I couldn't explain more. Memphis doesn't have a lot of players there, so it's a for me. Just if I pick one, it's a toss up between quickly and Vince.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I just have some hesitation around Vince, and I have him rostered in a couple of leagues. So I should put my money where my mouth is. But when he's skipping a couple of games here and there for no real apparent reason, just slight niggles, because I guess he's playing too well and they just don't want to win.
Yeah,
They are
true,
now
true.
tanking as hard as you can ever tank. I have hesitation, but for now, yeah, I'll probably go with Vince and quickly. Brogdon, who knows what happens? We've still got about 42 minutes until the deadline. Does he get moved? Whilst we're on the topic,
Yeah, I I'm hoping he could get moved. I'm thinking he could get moved. I'm leaning on that chances. But if you own Brogdon, to us and to the audience, to analyze this one, just think of which team would benefit if they get Brogdon. There are some teams on top of my head that everybody would hate because, like for example, I think Brogdon would play well with the Miami Heat. But again, we would hate that because it's gonna ding his value. It's gonna ding a lot of values there. So, but then again, that's the for me that's how you process the possible trade. So if you own Brogdon, chances are if you think of several teams that could benefit, like maybe the Los Angeles Lakers, maybe the GSW, then there's still a good chance. We still have 41 minutes.
yeah, and just you were talking about Brogdon possibly going to someone like, well, anyone that needs a point guard, but possibly Miami. I know that I saw on my Twitter feed that people were and sending tweets to the Miami Heat saying, um, we've got, Killian Hayes has just been waived by Detroit, so why not take a chance on Killian Hayes? So that's also quite surprising as well. High draft pick from a couple of seasons ago or 3 years ago. Killian Hayes has just been waived. So perhaps he could be looked at by some of these other teams for a backup point guard role.
You know who's gonna pick Killian Hayes, bro?
Who's that?
My team, the San Antonio Spurs.
Right, to like
Pop
backup
just
Trey
sent me a
Jones.
message.
Right.
He's from France, right? So your best, you have a best player as a Frenchman. Why not put a lot of French guys there?
Why not? Call them the fries. I like it. Okay. Let's go to the next one. The Raptors are trading Dennis Schroeder to the Nets for Spencer Dinwiddie. And then, as part of that, a follow up was Thad Young is also going to the Nets. There was some confusion. It looked like, I think Woj had also tweeted that it was Dennis Smith Jr., but that's been clarified that it's not Dennis Smith Jr., but in fact, it's just Dennis Schroeder involved in that trade. So, just to clarify, Dennis Schroeder to the Nets for Spencer Dinwiddie. Thad Young is also going to the Nets. First thoughts?
I initially thought that they probably would stick with their current value. I don't see any abrupt changes here. Maybe for Dinwiddie, he's gonna play better, but still low upside. Better, why? Because sometimes change of scenery helps out. The psyche of players. So he's playing not good currently. So I would assume he's gonna play better. Of course, the chances of the player you mentioned, Dennis Smith Jr., to gain value now is dinged. Ben Simmons' value now is dinged. I think as of the moment, Dennis Schroeder is a better playmaker than Ben Simmons. So I don't know. I just think there's no fantasy impact in this trade for now.
I would agree. It doesn't really move the needle for me. Do you think there's any impact whatsoever on Emmanuel Quickly?
Um, Probably not. I think, come to think of it, it's more of like the direction that Toronto is what they're trying to do right now. So of course, yes, there's still a chance that Spencer Dinwiddie eventually takes over Emmanuel quickly, but generally it just doesn't make sense to me given the moves that they did. Uh, if you check Dennis Schroeder's minutes, he's getting decent amount of minutes, like sometimes still 30 minutes, right? So it fits what Spencer Dinwiddie does. So Spencer Dinwiddie doesn't shoot well. He's more of a slasher attacker type of player. Um, is he a better facilitator than Emmanuel Quickly? I don't know. I think Emmanuel Quickly is still a better guard than Spencer Dinwiddie. Maybe he's gonna be the vet while they're trying to reestablish everything.
Yeah, I think he's a nice complementary piece. I'm not concerned about Emmanuel Quickly's value whatsoever. I think he's still going to start and put up some decent minutes and good value for the rest of the season, particularly in category leagues. Just going back, Clyde's got another question here. He's got 4 weeks before playoffs. Is dropping Bain to pick up Trey Mann something to consider? He's in a 20-man cat league.
Oh, but Bane is actually progressing better. I understand there's possibly no reason for Bane to play, but uh, hmm, 20 man. Personally, if you ask me, why not? Let's go 3 man. I don't know.
Go Trey
This,
Mann, take a flyer.
yeah,
Yeah.
take the
I
flyer.
think so. I think so. And yeah, like you said, Memphis don't really have anything to play for. They're going to look after him. He's one of their cornerstone pieces moving into next year. They'll have Jar, they'll have JJJ, they'll have Brandon Clark will hopefully be coming back possibly this year. Probably unlikely that it's this season. It's probably going to be next season. And obviously Desmond Bain. So yeah, some nice pieces there. So why risk doing further injury and bringing him back early? So I think if he does happen to come back for a game or two, it's just going to be very sporadic. So I don't think you'd need to waste your time there. Trey Mann has got some upside there. And He's probably a 14-teamer, to be honest. So picking him up in a 20-man cat league probably makes sense. All right, moving on to the next one. Hornets. We knew that they were going to be active, and before a lot of these trades went through, we got confirmation that Miles Bridges was not going to be traded. He did have a no trade clause, so he could reject the clause. I know we had that on one of our shows the other night. So, yeah, that's been confirmed, and it sounded like his agent wasn't going to accept anything. So it's great that he's comfortable at the Hornets. But in the meantime, we've sent PJ Washington. So Charlotte sent PJ Washington to Dallas. Again, Dallas has been very, very active. They've really solidified that front court, and I think they're going to contend in the West. I did tweet out that they're currently 8th, then only 2 games behind the 5th place Suns. So it would not surprise me if they end up around that 5 to 6 slot come playoff. So I think they're going to be doing really well. PJ Washington does help them out. It is an upgrade on Grant Williams. They've also included Seth Curry as well, but Grant Williams is going back to Charlotte. Seth Curry is going to Charlotte and a first-round pick. So I think it's great for Dallas, and I don't think it's all that bad for Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, Grant Williams is a player who gets minutes and does nothing. To be honest, some people saying he's good in defending and all. Even in reality, I can name several players that is better than him as well. So this is definitely an upgrade. I love it. I totally agree with DMAC here. I kind of like am looking forward with how Luca and Kyrie mesh with PJ, because PJ is a good pick and roll guy. He's possibly the best pick and roll guy in the Charlotte Hornets before. That's the reason why when Miles Bridges was out, it was easy for him to slot in the power position or in a center position because he can shoot, he can defend, and he has length. So this is a solid acquisition. I think, of course, in fantasy, his value projection wise is gonna go down because projection wise, if he's stuck in the Hornets team and Lamelo Ball didn't play, he has more opportunities there. But for this one, is gonna have a lesser upside. But who knows? Because remember when Maxi Kleber plays solid minutes, he gives us what snipes, rebounds, and blocks. So it's still a solid what I call this is a solid stat to really own. The only difference there is Maxi Kleber isn't really what I call this turning the table, turning the ball over a lot of times in comparison to PJ Washington. But I don't think he's gonna turn the ball more here because he has 2 ball dominant along his side. So it's a good add here for PJ Wash just in case someone dropped him. And then Grant Williams, I'm not interested. To be honest, if the thing that kind of like uh I was kind of like disappointed with is with Cody Martin because I'm looking at Cody Martin as one of the good pickups down the road, and with Grant Williams, I have to really check how the dynamics works.
Great segue to our question from Splashman again. So Cody Martin, a must add. Papu?
To be honest, when I with the Lamelo news, he was just really injured, not 100%. But the moment he gets playing time and he gets a good amount of usage, he contributes. You know the reason why? Because he actually is almost similar to his twin brother who has ability to actually defend. So with that said, just pick the top 6 players in the Charlotte Hornets. If you pick Cody within the top 5, then the answer here is yes. Because I
Yeah.
can't see any other players that could contribute there.
In a similar vein, Nick Richards must roster.
I think so. We haven't really heard about Mark Williams yet, so let's just ride all Saint Nick.
Yeah, I know he was a little bit disappointing in the last game, but I think he just has to be rostered. And having PJ move away as well from that front court. Yes, they don't necessarily play the same position all the time. PJ does fill in at center on occasion, but it does solidify Nick Richards' role for me in his minutes moving forward. Next one here, we touched on this earlier, but Brooklyn sent Royce O'Neal to Phoenix for salaries and 3 second-round picks. In addition to that, I mentioned this as well. Memphis sent David Roddy to the Suns for a pick swap as part of the three-way deal with Phoenix and Brooklyn. Thoughts on that one?
Uh, I don't think it's gonna have an impact in terms of them gaining. I mean, the Royce O'Neal gaining some value. It's more of like now Eric Gordon and Grayson's value isn't really sure because in the past couple of weeks, Grayson has been a good acquisition. I'm still gonna hold Grayson, and I'm just gonna look at how would everything meshes because now they have more players that is capable to be a shooter and be a defender as well. So I'm pretty sure this is similar to what Dimak mentioned earlier. It's a rumble in the jungle right there in Phoenix Suns. You mentioned Roddy, right? Is also now a Phoenix Sun. Then
Yep.
those what with Okogie again, they're around 4 to 5 wings there already.
Yeah, they've really strengthened their wing depth, which is a good thing. I think that does help the Suns longer term as they go deeper into the playoffs or go into the playoffs. But it doesn't really push the needle in terms of any fantasy relevance for me. But let's move on. All right, this one was a strange one. So the first notification that I got of this was that Patrick Beverly actually announced his own trade before Woj or Shams got to it, which is great. And he mentioned it on his own podcast, which is it's great and unusual that you'd find out before any of these top-notch media guys. But so the 76ers are trading Patrick Beverly to the Bucks. In return, the Bucks will send Cam Payne to the Sixers. Any thoughts on that one?
Someone is going to make Thanasis better, and that's gonna be Patrick Beverly. Well, I hope they get more aside from Patrick Beverly. I hope they get the likes of we talk about this like Alex Caruso or Bruce Brown. Why? Because I want to have a competitive Eastern Conference. You know, Milwaukee Bucks has been knocking and knocking on the door, and season after season, well, they won a championship, but they haven't really proven that they are really the team to beat with the Damian Lillard acquisition. I think getting someone like Pat Bev, who doesn't contribute a lot in fantasy in reality in terms of stats, but he contributes with the the dog mentality of the team, and every team needs that. Remember when uh, the Dallas Mavericks signed was that the one who's a black belter? Uh, the tattooed guy from Miami and Toronto, James Johnson. Remember,
Oh, Jimmy Johnson, yes.
when they signed Jimmy Johnson, everyone was thinking of the same thought that he's gonna be the bodyguard of Luka Doncic. So I guess that is what Patrick Beverly brings to the table. But aside from that, nothing fantasy relevant here. Maybe there will be weeks if Damian Lillard sits and Giannis Antetokounmpo sits, then Patrick Beverly is a good ad.
Yeah, for me, I don't think it changes anything in terms of 12 teamers for me. But yeah, I think it does give them a little bit of an edge. The Bucks might need that sort of mentality as well. But yeah, he's a bit of a bulldog, as you were saying. But that's it in terms of the main trades. Yeah, like I said, there was Killian Hayes has been waived, which is surprising. They've got nothing for him. They just waived him for whatever reason. I guess they're creating a roster space for some additional moves. So let's watch that space. 27 minutes to go. Puppy, what are some trades that you're thinking may go down?
Yeah, I'm still waiting on the DeJounte Murray trade. I think DeJounte Murray is someone that will definitely get moved. There will be a reason why he won't get moved if ever that happens. But Atlanta, because there are several teams that needs to really do something. You have Atlanta, you have Chicago, and then there are also several teams that needs to do something and needs to do something now. And that for me is the likes of the Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. Earlier we praised the Dallas Mavericks. Actually, it impacts those teams. Why? Because Dallas got better, and GSW and Los Angeles Lakers should be better.
Yep,
And I
they're
think,
stagnant.
yeah, I don't want to be in their GM's position right now, but I'm pretty sure they're feeling the pressure. So 26 minutes or 25 minutes left. I think something big is going to happen. Let's see. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we need a countdown timer on screen or something like that. We'll probably mention it every couple of minutes, so that might get on people's nerves. But yeah, it's exciting. And I remember a couple of seasons ago that there were some trades happening in the last minute. I remember it was KP from Dallas to Washington. So that was, I'm pretty sure that was a last minute trade as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And of
Oh,
course, the finalisation of trades can go past that trade deadline, but I think the paperwork needs to be lodged beforehand. So yeah, 26 minutes for the paperwork to be lodged. I have seen some tweets, and I'm not sure if it's been verified or whatnot, but looking like Chicago will not be active at trade deadline, which, man, that's a body blow, right? This is the team that's most desperate to make some sort of move. They are just happy being mediocre, and I guess they have looked a lot better recently, but you've got all these guys that still have trade value and not being able to move any of them. Vooch, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine to a lesser extent now that he's injured as well. Pretty disappointing. And I don't know, for our Bulls fans out there, I don't know what your thoughts are. And yeah, it's just so many years of mediocrity must be quite frustrating.
yeah, and on top of that, for the Chicago Bulls, they know to themselves that something needs to change, but possibly there's, I don't know, internal concerns why they're doing this route. But one thing's for sure, they learned a lot out of the Zach Levine contract.
Mm.
Because that's really one of the bummer here. It's hard to really do to trade his contract, and I'm pretty sure they need to think a lot this off season, and then
It's funny,
they're
we talk
gonna.
about sell highs and buy lows all the time in fantasy. I think Zach Levine did something equivalent at the height of his peak of his powers, signed a new contract, pretty much got the max. Crazy deal. Good player, but I don't think he's worth the max. And that's now really hurt Chicago and making moves and, again, stagnating their franchise, which is very disappointing. I do have some more questions here. Actually, this is a statement. Here's some feedback. So we had Clyde earlier ask us some advice. So he's now gone ahead and swapped O'Neal, Dunn, and Bain for Mann, Holmes, and Hendricks. So I like it. I think there's some upside there. And from what I understand, that was a 20-team league. So I think there's some nice moves as well.
Yeah.
Got another
Uh,
question. Go on, Bobby.
yeah. I was about to say, Clyde, not sleeping right away paid off because you were able to get this guy. So good
Yeah.
job, bro.
Yeah, hey, you'll catch up on the sleep. Another one from Andrew Jones just came in, puppy. There we go. How's Rashawn Holmes' outlook? So we did talk about Rashawn Holmes earlier, but you're a little bit higher on Rashawn Holmes than myself. But again, just reiterate for those that have just joined us.
Yeah, so I think it's a good opportunity for Rashawn Holmes. Will he get better opportunity wise? Of course, because the Washington Wizard doesn't have any big man there. We're actually joking earlier, Andrew, that come to remember what happened back in the Sacramento Kings, wherein Rashawn Holmes and Marvin Bagley played together, and we're thinking, and we both said that Rashawn Holmes was better back then. But of course, it's a different situation right now. We thought that the first big man to get a crack on the big man position, that this is a primary center, should be Marvin Bagley. And then, given that we all know Deshaun Holmes isn't that bad, he's actually decent, and he actually played, give us a solid early fantasy ranking few years ago. Then there's a good chance it's either they gonna swap or this is going to be a 50-50 battle. Remember when Marvin Bagley uh give us a lot of solid stats back to back games when Dan Gafford was out. It was nice, right? But what happened when Dan Gafford came back? The not only the usage shifted, but also the minutes. Marvin Bagley didn't get a lot minutes. So if if I was thinking maybe the coach values what Dan Gafford brings, and I think Rashawn Holmes can actually give that better or more identical over Marvin Bagley. So it's a toss up, but he's a good ad just in case something's cooking in Washington Wizards that gives him opportunity to bring back his old fantasy self.
Yeah, and another point, Marvin Bagley's missed the last couple as well, just with a back injury. I don't think it'll be a long-term thing, but if he does miss again and Rashawn Holmes' trade is cleared and he gets to play before Bagley returns, essentially he gets first crack. And if he impresses, I think he'll get maybe an extended run. He may not serve as the primary center moving forward, but as the backup, I think it'll be a situation where he's the backup to DeAndre Ayton, where Rashawn Holmes almost had 12-team value playing less than 20 minutes a game. And I think a lot of people were frustrated because DeAndre Ayton, number one pick, why aren't you playing him? You're playing Rashawn Holmes. Who's this guy? But it just shows you the heart of the guy. And this was several seasons ago, but the heart of the guy, he was a workhorse. So perhaps if Marvin Bagley doesn't miss another couple of games, Rashawn Holmes may be able to impress.
There you go. Dimag, I have a question for you. Any player not yet, if it involved or not, in the past couple of trades that you think is being kind of like undervalued in terms of fantasy impact? Like, for example, for me, I think Keontae George is also a winner here because usage was there's several usage guys was going to move, especially if JC gets moved. But even if JC stays, I don't think JC is gonna play the whole rest of the season, like every game, right? So I think the way how Utah kind of like played this trade deadline, it's almost as if they are actually planning to eventually give the keys to Keontae. So just putting that the thoughts out there.
It does look like they're looking towards the future, right? Moving away Simone Fontecchio, um, looking to maybe prioritize Taylor Hendricks as well as a rookie. It does appear that way. So again, we've got 19 minutes. There's my countdown as well. There's their time check. Perhaps Jordan Clarkson does get moved. There's some talk of Colin Sexton as well. I don't think Sexton is moved. I think Clarkson is more likely. But even so, if Clarkson is moved, I don't know if I'm rushing to necessarily go and grab Keontae George. I think he would be okay in a 12-teamer, but I don't think he's going to be the top 50 guy rest of the season. But he would be fine. He's fine to add, but again, that's really dependent on if any moves happen down the track.
Uh, how about um, how about Bilal Koulibaly? So Kuzma won't be traded.
No.
There's like a tweet about it. So are you still interested in adding or stashing Bilal Koulibaly? Because um, when it's a good day, he's actually giving us tasty stats, almost as like Osar Thompson stats, right? But most of the time, he doesn't give much, even though he gets minutes already. So what do you think about Bilal?
I love his game. I think he's great. He's got great potential, but I don't think he's going to be able to win people leagues this season. Yeah, he's a nice still streamer. He's a little bit iffy when it comes to his shot at times as well. So I don't think he's going to give you that consistent production down the stretch. But if there is a move in the last 18 minutes, let's say a Tyus Jones gets moved, then that'll just shift. Perhaps Jordan Poole, my man Jordan Poole, moves down to point guard, and then everyone just gets a little few more extra minutes, which will help Bilal. But I just don't think he's a stash, and it'll be interesting to have people stashing with 17 minutes to go. But unless there is a move, I don't think he needs to be rostered.
There you go. To be honest, I initially thought that he's a good stash just because I was hoping more of the usage guys in DC gets traded. Now that they won't be traded, at least in the past minutes left. If that happens, I agree with you. I am it's getting I'm feeling bitter now with Bilal. I still think down the road is going to have solid games, but for someone to really say he's a must roster, I'm now saying that I don't think so. I think I would rather pick Kelly Olynyk over Bilal, or maybe even Marvin Bagley over Bilal.
Again, nice segue into the next question. Nick Richards or Kelly Olynyk? 14-team points league.
Oh, uh, points league. A healthy Nick Richards, 100% Nick Richards, I would pick him over Kelly Olynyk. You know why? Bruce Bowen haven't been is not yet traded, so if Bruce Bowen gets traded, I'm more comfortable. But I'll
Yeah,
go
Bruce
Nick
Bruce
Richards here.
Brown is
Oh,
he's
Brown rather.
you're taking us back to your San Antonio love, which is fine. Yeah, but Bruce Brown is still a Raptor as we speak with 16 minutes to go. But if Bruce Brown is moved, perhaps Kelly Olynyk does get that extra little bit of
Yeah,
impetus as well. So we were talking about um, yeah, just a few other moves. Thad Young was moved, but again, Thad Young wasn't playing huge amount of minutes. But yeah, Bruce Brown still on that roster, still clogs it up just a little bit. But we'll see what happens again. DeJounte Murray still hasn't been traded. As the minutes wind down, I guess the chances are less and less likely. Again, I saw a tweet just then around how the Lakers are probably just going to stand pat. So I don't necessarily mean that DeJounte won't be traded, but if the Lakers aren't going to be active, that's a shame. Trade just went through. Nothing of note. What do we have? Doug McDermott to the
Dermot.
Pacers. So one of your
welcome back.
boys.
Welcome back, Doug. I think Doug was an ex-pacer, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Am I right?
Yeah. So how do you feel about that? The Spur moving away.
Oh no, nah. I think they are expected to be sellers. The San Antonio Spurs, the Doug McDermott, and who else? The one they got from the Cavaliers. Cedi Osman, I think,
Cedi
is
Osman. Yep.
also. Uh, if anything else, they are buyout candidates probably. I don't know, but yeah,
And I guess, yeah, Doug McDermott, again, doesn't need to be rostered in 12 teamers, but in terms of the Pacers, I think them losing Buddy Hield, them bringing in Doug McDermott, it takes a little bit of that 3-point shooting back into it if they need that. Um, I don't think it impacts someone like a Benedict Mathurin. His value is still a little bit increased since Buddy Hield has left the team. So no great implications there, but it's just a nice little piece for the Pacers, just with their 3-point shooting there.
yeah, and
Okay.
everybody loves Dog. Dog is a baller.
Yeah. Clyde again. Thoughts on the Spurs not making a move? Well, there's your first move.
did is it
They got a
fine
future
for the Dog
second
to leave?
round pick, by the way. Yep. So Pacers will send the Spurs a future second round pick for Doug McDermott.
As a San Antonio Spurs fan, I really don't expect um the San Antonio Spurs to trade asset for like the rumors about Trey Young and all. I don't think they are going to follow that path. It's just about knowing what Wemby can do, so they could create a system for Wemby for his first season. So I firmly believe that's the theme, at least for this year, for the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah. Also, oh, here we go. Another one just went through. Shams has just reported the Pacers are trading Marcus Morris, who they acquired earlier, a second round pick and cash to the Spurs for Doug McDermott as part of that. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here's a big one. Here's a big one. DeJounte Murray, guys. Won't be traded. Hawks won't trade DeJounte Murray. Okay. That's
Boo.
confirmed. Yeah. So that's disappointing. I think a lot of people did expect that. I think that was probably my number one expected trade. But yeah, that's not happening. Well, there we
Ooh.
go.
So we should expect a lot of trades in the off season probably.
Yeah. Yeah, it's disappointing because I think, again, they're a mediocre team. Everyone was supposedly on the trade block except for Trey and Jalen Johnson, and nothing's eventuated. So, yeah, a little bit of a disappointing last half hour, I guess, in terms of trade deadline. But again, 12 minutes to go, guys. So anything can happen. But we just know that DeJounte will not be moving away from the Atlanta Hawks this season, but perhaps in the off season as well. I'm just having a look at his contract. So let's see. What's he on at the moment? So DeJounte Murray, he's on a 5-year contract, 18 million. So that's a nice contract. That's
Yeah,
definitely movable. I think that's would be a highly sought after one. So it's surprising they weren't able to find a nice suitor in this trade period.
they're possibly asking a lot of first rounders, and there's
I'd say so.
only
Yeah,
few
for
teams that can actually give them.
a salary cap friendly type of contract, I think, yeah, they're probably asking a fair bit there. Whereas someone like a Zach Levine at 40 plus million a year, that's just immovable, particularly as an injured asset as well.
So Dimac, I have a question for you. If you're Los Angeles Lakers and GSW right now,
Mm.
almost 10 minutes left. What's on your mind, bro?
As a fan of that franchise or those franchises, a little bit of disappointment because are they just, again, I'm going to use the term again, mediocrity? Are they just going to hope for the best and hope that something just clicks all of a sudden, particularly with the Warriors? Are they just going to put less reliance on their older guys and put more reliance on the younger guys? I know Jonathan Kuminga's really stepped up, and guys like Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins has sort of taken a back seat to that. Is that going to happen more and more as we go down the stretch, or is it going to be the other way? They're going to rely on the older guys as we get closer to the play-ins and the playoffs.
So if GSW and Los Angeles Lakers won't make a move, do you expect that Davis, LeBron, Draymond, Curry, and even Clay will get solid value rest of the season because they need to really step up?
Clay's been really inconsistent. We spoke about it on your show the other night, and yeah, he's just been really up and down. He hasn't been closing games. He had a nice game yesterday, a little bit of a bounce back, but he hasn't been closing games, and that's well reported. So, just breaking news again, really low level. Milwaukee Bucks are trading Robin Lopez to the Sacramento Kings, and then Lopez is expected to be waived and become a free agent. So, yeah, there we go. Just moving some numbers there. No real assets apart from cash.
There's also a tweet wherein Jess is keen to keep Jordan Clarkson.
There you go. There we go. I wonder how you would feel as a Jazz fan. So, any Jazz fans out there, let us know how you feel in the comments. Yeah, it's very quiet. 9 minutes to go. Well, who else, Puppy? As let's say you're a GM of one of these contending teams that aren't quite there, maybe a Philadelphia 76ers with Embiid out. Are you looking to make some more trades by the deadline?
To be honest, I would, because for me, if I am given a chance to be a GM, I will be heavily investing on culture. So, even though my main guy is actually injured, I would have spent money to keep the winning culture because they actually started very strong this season, and I don't
Hmm.
want this season to be just another season and saying that trust the process or because of we're injured, we didn't make it. So I would have tried to still at least go and buy a play-in slot there. And with that respect, Andre Drummond was actually rumored earlier today, right? That Philadelphia Sixers is considering him. So it's a big ad. So if Andre Drummond goes to the Sixers, would you run and add Drummond, Dima?
We got Paul Reed there, and I know a lot of people are frustrated with Paul Reed. I probably would add Drummond. Um, and who knows, maybe he does start ahead of Paul Reed. Paul Reed hasn't really set the house on fire. He was ill for the first two games after Embiid went down, and people were dropping left, right, and center pretty crazily. I've been suggesting you got to hold this guy, particularly in category leagues, less so in points leagues. But for Drummond, if he was moved to the 76ers, yeah, I'd probably take a flyer. Actually, a nice handcuff if you did happen to have Paul Reed as well. Um, yeah, and there were early reports that possibly he'd be going to someone like the Boston Celtics. The Celtics made a move yesterday. I believe they got Xavier Tillman, which
Yeah.
was the blockbuster move that they needed. But um, all jokes aside, it was just a nice cover for some of the older guys like Al Horford and some of the more injury-prone guys like KP as well. But yeah, really quiet on the front at the moment. What
Seven
else are you
minutes
seeing
to
there,
go.
puppy? Yeah,
Yeah,
7 minutes, so we're counting down. No real moves. We can't really count Robin Lopez as a move there. Um,
there's
what
there's
else do the
one
Bucks need? Because
there's
we were
one
talking
trade.
the other night around the Bucks trying to get a real defensive-minded guard, and we suggested Alex Caruso. So again, Chicago not being active in the trade period, Alex Caruso at this stage with 7 minutes to go is still going to be a bull. But what does that do in terms of the Bucks' credentials for the championship this season?
I think it's hard to really imagine they are at par with at least like the Boston Celtics. What the Boston Celtics did to their roster to really run for the championship. I think the Boston Celtics are the top seed in the East, and in the West there's a lot of teams. I mean, I would love to say that Denver is an easy win, but I mean, I'm getting in love. I'm trying to. The Los Angeles Clippers vibe is
Mm.
getting into me. I don't know.
I
I
think I've been
love.
infected as well, and I think part of that is because of James Harden and him being on a couple of my teams. But yeah, there's the infection, the Clippers
Yeah.
infection.
So the Bucks just did the Rolo thingy. Are they trying to do something
And
trade
it's
deadline?
really there could be something brewing at the moment. But again, what's his contract like? Is that actually moving a lot? Not too sure. Let's check this out.
By the way, speaking of the Milwaukee Bucks, so earlier this week there was a rumor about a straight up trade between Grant Williams and Bobby Portis, right? So I think Dallas made the right choice of getting PJ Wash over Bobby Portis.
I think so. Yeah, that's a nice upgrade. I do like PJ Washington in that situation. Robin Lopez, just going back to him, his contract is only 2 million, and it's an expiring contract as well. So, hence why he's been waived. So they're really just moving some numbers there. So let's see. Oh, this is interesting. Spencer Dinwiddie expected to be waived by the Raptors.
There
So
you
what does
go.
that do with the Raptors? Obviously, that solidifies Emmanuel quickly. Dinwiddie, don't know. Is he available now?
Dinwiddie, you're a Sixer. Right?
Could be.
Because
Could
there
be.
are options. Because like so now here's an advice. So we still have a couple of minutes. If nothing big comes up, to all who will watch this episode late, there's still a buyout, and there could you could actually get value in buyouts, not as big as the usual trades, but the maybe your ninth or 10th player in your roster. Who knows?
Yeah, so we've just got a question around Dinwiddie here from Andrew again. I have Dinwiddie 16 teamer. Should I drop now? Um, I probably wouldn't drop at this stage because he could find himself on another team very quickly. In a 16 teamer, I think you need that depth, and he's quality. He's borderline 12 teamer when he was playing consistently. So I probably wouldn't drop at this stage, but just watch this space. I think he will be picked up. He's too good not to be on a roster.
The only
Uh,
reason I would drop Dinwiddie is if you have solid FAs available in your league. Because even though Dinwiddie is decent, upside is almost zero. So if there's an
Limited
upside
upside.
ticket,
Limited upside, but yeah, in a 16 teamer, it is hard to find a lot of quality on the waiver wire. I guess with trade deadline, it does open it up a little bit more. So Andrew, if you give us some of your other options, maybe we can suggest one or the other. But in a nutshell or in a vacuum, I'd still suggest holding on to Dinwiddie for now in a 16 teamer. Josh was asked Nick Richards or stash Patrick Williams. He should be solid with Levine out. And we spoke about this the other night.
yeah, Nick Richards or stash Patrick Williams. So, oh, because Nick Richards is injured. Is he injured?
No, Nick Richards is not injured, but Patrick Williams is injured,
Well, if you have IL, I would definitely stash Patrick Williams. If you don't have IL or IL plus,
but not over Nick Richards.
yeah, not over Nick Richards. I would
Mm,
still pick Nick Richards.
yeah, same. Absolutely. Um, all right, no
Last
other
two
questions coming
minutes.
through. What do we got? Last 2 minutes. So I've got no other notifications at this stage, but again, we'll go through all the way through to the deadline and beyond, and we'll see what else eventuates. Okay. If you're a fan of, okay, who are you most disappointed as a fan? Is it a fan of the Bulls, a fan of the Lakers? Because
Um,
you're expected, as a Lakers fan, the franchise is expected to improve and expected to win championships. LeBron's not getting any younger. He's 39, turning 40 this year. Um, what do they do? What are you saying as a fan?
yeah, it's pretty disappointing because we're talking about the last few years of Hall of Famers, the likes of LeBron James, and then if you're a JCW fan, the likes of Stephen Curry. So for me, I just as a plain fan, I would have loved to see them on top of their conference, this top four at least in the last couple of years. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. I know there's a lot of optimism in the couple of games, but still, if you are going to be really honest, they aren't they're mid carders as of the moment. If there's a team that I'm actually the Toronto Raptors are keeping Bruce Brown.
They're keeping Bruce Brown. Okay. They're keeping Bruce Brown. I was going to say, if Bruce Brown was moved, not only does that help, yeah, I just saw that as well. Not only does that help Kelly Olynyk, but it would also probably help Gary Trent. So Gary Trent would perhaps come into the starting lineup. We know in previous seasons that he can give you value, 3-pointers, points, steals. We haven't seen that for quite some time consistently. But yeah, that's disappointing. But I would still watch. There we go. That's trade deadline. That's 4 o'clock on the dot. Now, let's see if any other notifications come through, any other last minute trades in terms of lodging paperwork or whatnot. But we've got some more questions here. This is Joshua again. So he's just clarifying. He's got Melton. So Joshua talking about Nick Richards or stashing Patrick Williams earlier, but looks like he's already got Melton there. So yeah, Nick Richards for me over Patrick Williams.
And keep Melton.
Keep Melton. Yeah, keep Melton. From Gale, I add Holmes right away. Is that a good move? Happy, here we go again.
For me, these are speculative ads. So for me, it depends on who's the player you drop to assess really if it's a good move. For me, it's always a good move because we're talking about upside here. We're talking about a gray area that no one knows. Even Holmes don't know. even the Wizards don't know. We can only speculate. So for me, it's still a good move. It will just it's gonna be a bad move if you drop a solid player, a non-droppable player. But yeah, generally, I would say yes. Let's see, because if it didn't work, I hope you drop someone that is last on your team. So at least you still have a what I call this a streaming slot, which is sometimes more important than a mediocre player.
Yeah. A couple of minor trades have gone through as well in the last minute. Jaden Springer has gone to the Celtics. And then the other way, Delano Banton has actually gone to the Trailblazers from the Celtics as well. So that's not moving the needle whatsoever in terms of standard leagues. Perhaps I just got a notification. Bulls won't trade Andre Drummond at deadline. So we sort of knew that. We sort of got that idea. But yeah, let's just wait for the last few moments of trade deadline, see if anything else gets through. But yeah, Delano Banton moving to Portland, I don't think that changes much. Maybe gives them a little bit more guard depth, which I don't know. Does that hurt Brogdon?
Yeah, just the possibility to really sit out the rest of the season is gonna hurt you. But again, we mentioned several. Oh, Kayla, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
How are you?
Good,
Welcome.
Good. How's it going?
Yeah, great. So that's trade deadline. We were just talking about the final couple of minor trades as well. I don't know if you saw that, Kayla, but yeah, real low level sort of stuff. But
yeah,
Kayla was you were just on Josh's show, Josh Lloyd's show just then. How did that go? Give us the insights.
It went well. It was a little quiet, I was expecting a couple more moves to come in, but all I saw was Dinwiddie getting waived, so
that's a surprise, right? Yeah, we were talking about that one for a few minutes. Quite surprising, but yeah, solidifies Emmanuel Quickly's value as well. Some people were concerned, but it's probably boosted now that Dennis Schroeder's moved away. Spencer Dinwiddie's also now waived, which is surprising. I don't think he will definitely be picked up by a franchise. Perhaps it's someone like a Lakers, but we'll wait and see. A couple more questions here, and then maybe we can review all of the trades as well. What do we got? We got T May. Oh, T May. Is this Tim May? Okay. Doing the same thing, expecting different results. Pretty much a lot of the teams are doing that. Bulls, Lakers, Golden State. Same old, very mediocre. T May. Is that Tim May that I know? Anyway, that'll be interesting. Another question here. Uh, should I drop Plumlee for Holmes and keep Bilal? That's really dependent on what your roster is looking like. There is a notification. What have we got? Warriors are trading Corey Joseph to the Pacers. Again, very low level. Corey
Yeah.
Joseph is a backup point guard, which they've already got Andrew Nembard and TJ McConnell. So I don't think that moves the needle at all. Warriors, they weren't playing Corey Joseph anyway. So yeah, very, very low level stuff there. But going back to this question of Gale, I drop Plumlee for Holmes and keep Bilal. Thoughts, guys?
Well, I would drop Plumlee anyway, with
Mhm.
Zubac back. But Holmes, he's more of a short term, I would say, with Bagley out right now. And Bilal, I mean, I don't really see the upside right now because they didn't really make any moves. So I don't think much is really going to change there.
Yeah, interesting perspective because we were just talking earlier, and particularly, I think we're romanticizing the good old days or a few seasons back where Rashawn Holmes was a fantasy darling. So we were talking about potentially having some value short term, as you were saying, Kayla, but maybe he can put his foot in the door, impress the coaching staff, and perhaps before Bagley does return from his back injury, maybe he does solidify a bit of a role there as a backup moving forward. Keeping Bilal, Wizards didn't make any moves or any significant moves at all. Are we keeping Bilal Koulibaly?
If for me, he's a luxury stash. The only reason there is the hope for actually him getting more stats because there's already a minutes, but the stats aren't there. So if we can get stats down the road, then fine. Last season, Kuzma did sit some of the games in the last couple of weeks, so that's a good indication for Bilal to actually gain some value. But the better question here is, what's your status in your league? Because if you really need some wins, then don't keep Bilal. I would rather stream that slot and
Mhm.
try out to, depending on the schedule or depending on the opportunity. I would rather stream it over Bilal. But if you're actually winning and then you have again a luxury to weight it up, maybe fine. Me, I honestly can say I was actually expecting better things for Bilal, but it gone bitter right now. Uh, I'm just happy that Jordan Poole is still better than Jordan Poole at least the last game. not 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 to fire some shots to D-Mac, but
My boy Jordan Poole. Look, I wasn't alone, but yeah, that's been the biggest bust of the season by far. Let's
Mhm.
move on. Very quickly moving on to the next question by some guy. Zubac for Gafford. Just got offered this. It's a 12-team points league. And we spoke about Gafford potentially splitting the minutes with Derek Lively at the Mavs. Would you do Zubac for Gafford? Kayla, points league extraordinaire. What would you do here?
I'd rather have Zubac, to be honest with you, just because we know he's going to be that main center with the Clippers. We don't really know how, like you said, if there's going to be that minute split. There probably will be between Lively and Gafford, but I wouldn't really want to risk that right now.
A lot of people on Twitter are saying that Gafford's still going to be playing 25, 26 minutes like he was in Washington. The biggest difference that I see is that when he was in Washington, there was barely any competition for center. Yes,
Mhm.
um, Bagley was there, but I think Gafford really had a free reign. So when he got in foul trouble, they'd still try to get him back onto the court as soon as possible when he wasn't playing well. Let's get him back in because essentially they didn't have anyone else. Now you've got someone like Derek Lively, although a rookie, he's got some nice synergy with Luca, with Kyrie. So I don't know if he's going to have the same flexibility. So I don't dislike Zubac for Gafford. For me, I'd probably still hold Gafford for now just to see how things play out. But it's borderline.
yeah, it's a matter of preference. If you want a safer pick, I would pick Zubac there. I think Gafford has more upside than Zubac. There's another alternate universe wherein Gafford plays more than Derek Lively. Knock on the wood, if maybe Lively gets injured down the road. So if that's the case, then Gafford. But if you want a safer pick, if Gafford has Kyrie and what I call this Luca, Zubac got James Harden. So I think it's still a good mid guard center. So
In a similar vein, Michael's asked a question: Lively or Bagley category league?
category league, hmm, because I love Bagley more. But like what I mentioned earlier, I'm looking. So maybe the reason why there are people tweeting about Gafford's minutes is because of Jason Kidd, because Jason Kidd is really well known to kind of like lean more on the vets over the youngster. Though he has a very solid youngster here. So if either I think in category leagues, just because of the opportunity, I might go Bagley. Though Bagley is more of like a points league player. He is solid in rebounds in points, but and Washington is shitty, so possibly Bagley.
What
Yeah,
about you,
I would
Kayla?
say the same thing. It's just because he has that opportunity there, Bagley. With Lively, like I said before, we kind of have to see how the minutes splits. I expect his production to go down a little bit too, so I would stick with Bagley.
Right. Yeah, Michael's follow-up comment was the same. Lively stock down with Gafford to Mavs. Look, I may play devil's advocate. I think I would stick with Lively. Of course, this is a category league. If you're punting blocks, then of course Lively's value is out the window. So Bagley does have that probably edge over Lively, but I don't know. I've seen what Lively does. I think they like what he does. He's a rookie. He's still learning, but he's worked well. As I said, he's worked well. Nice synergy with Luca. I don't think he's gonna. Yes, he'll lose some value, but I don't think he's just going to completely fall off a cliff. But we shall see. You guys think? You guys think Bagley? I'm probably leaning Lively. Next question. Brian's World. Paul Reed or Nick Richards? 10-team points league. Kayla.
Yeah, you know what? That's a tricky one because they're both good. We know that they're dealing with injuries to their main centers, which means that they have long-term value. If I had to choose, I would say Nick Richards. I think he's been more reliable so far. Well, Paul Reed has also been dealing with a sickness too, so that's why some of his minutes and stats were down. But I kind of like Richards a bit more.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Mm.
Was so aside from Paul Reed, who's the center in the Sixers right now? Bamba is this
Mo
just the
Bamba is
both
his
of them?
backup. Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
And Mo
Yeah.
Bamba was a popular ad a couple of days ago. And again, that's probably off the back of, as Kayla was saying, Paul Reed being sick 2 games in a row. He was sick. I think he's feeling better. He did have a better game yesterday, which is great. And hopefully it's on the upward. Yeah, I would probably still go Nick Richards. I'm probably with you there, Kayla.
Mhm.
All right, we got no
Same.
other questions, guys. If you want to keep firing out the questions, we're going to be here for a little bit longer, but let's just go through the trades again very quickly for those that weren't with us from the start of the show. Just quickly, if you guys can see that, the Pacers traded Buddy Hield away. So we spoke about, obviously, Buddy Hield being an ad for the 76ers. I think it's a nice ad for the 76ers. Didn't do too much else. They didn't bring in a center that we thought maybe they'd bring in someone like a Drummond, but I still think it's a nice acquisition for the 76ers. Buddy Hield, I think, is an ad, particularly in category leagues. On the other hand, I think Benedict Mathurin does also gain some value at the Pacers. Aaron Neesmith as well. I think he will get a bit of a boost as well. Any further thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, agreed. With Buddy Hield, I'm hoping that he revitalizes the last few weeks because we know how he's been, especially with the minutes. So I'm assuming that he's going to have a more concrete role, especially with Melton still out. Obviously, we'll have to monitor to see what happens when Melton returns. But for now, he's a definite ad in my eyes.
Yeah, and one of Papi's favorites, Kelly Oubre, takes a hit as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Roy.
Goodbye, Tsunami Papi. He's going
Yes.
Tsunami down.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been playing well even without Joel Embiid. So yeah.
Right, exactly. We spoke about Kelly Olynyk. I think he's got some value in Toronto. Yes, Bruce Brown wasn't moved, but Thad Young was moved. I think with his versatility, Kelly Olynyk can play the 4 or the 5. I think that does back up Jakob Poeltl nicely as well. I think he's borderline ad for me in a 12-teamer. What do you guys think?
Yeah, like he's not a must add, but I'm kind of intrigued by him being on the Raptors, and I think he'll even have some opportunities in the starting lineup. And I think his value just got boosted up a little bit. So I would add if you have the space.
Speaking of Raptors, another question. Is it Grady Dick time?
Not quite yet. I would say more of a monitoring situation. I think Trent will benefit the most at the
Mm.
moment.
Mhm.
But Grady is. It's possible that he will. He will benefit as well.
Yeah, I think if Bruce Brown had have been moved, I think Grady would have got a little bit more time. I think Gary
Mm,
Trent would have been a bigger winner. I still think he's a slight winner in this situation. But again, I don't think Gary Trent is necessarily a must roster guy, but someone to
yeah.
keep an eye out for. We spoke about Gordon Hayward being moved as well. I think it's a nice piece coming back. So Trey Mann, it's one to watch. I think he's an exciting young player. He just hasn't had the opportunity at the Thunder, and particularly with LaMelo Ball and his ankle issues. We're not sure if he's actually going to come back. I haven't heard too much in terms of his status, but I think Trey Mann is another one to roster in deeper leagues and one to watch in standard leagues. Would you concur, guys?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's a must add at the moment, but I think with LaMelo Ball's injury, we kind of have to monitor and see because he could have more value down the line.
Yep. And we'll get to, and we talked about Cody Martin as well, but when we get to the PJ Washington move, we'll talk about that. This one was an inconsequential acquisition, but Daniel House for a second rounder, and then he got moved. He got waived as well. So let's ignore that one. This one here, and look, the biggest winners in terms of NBA real life, I think, are the Knicks and the Mavs. I think that's unquestionable. And just going through this trade again, the Knicks acquired Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks. They've got some nice shooting, nice scoring, which complements their team nicely. The Pistons got Quentin Grimes, so really sought after sort of guy. I remember the Knicks held off trading Grimes when there was discussion around Donovan Mitchell last season as well. So that's, I won't say somewhat surprising, but yeah, they've made that move finally. Quentin Grimes, I think there's a little bit more of a pathway to some value there, but again, he's not a must roster guy in my eyes. Thoughts, guys?
Yep,
Yeah,
I agree with that too. Sorry, did you want to talk?
yeah. I just want to say that Pistons is the safest team on earth because they have a lot of guards. They seem to really like getting a lot of guards in their
So
roster.
for Killian
Uh,
Hayes, see you later.
it's hey, let's drop a guard because we got a guard. So,
Yeah.
but
Another, yeah, I
just
was
want
just going to say that another big takeaway from this one, I think you're about to say it, Roy, was around Asar Thompson.
yeah, I think looking at it, it seems like logically, Asar Thompson is probably the biggest winner here, but it's the Detroit Pistons, so I think let's just hope that they do the right thing. But yeah, I think Oscar could be the biggest winner, and a runner up could be Simon Fontecchio, depending on the role he's gonna get. Because Boyan is a usage player, so there's good amount of mouths to feed there after Boyan is shifted. So let's see if Simone gets that role. Like Dimak said, I'm also really interested with Q Grimes. Let's look how they handle Q Grimes. Detroit has in the past had the likes of KCP, Stanley Johnson, because they wanted to replicate Kawhi Leonard. So maybe if they value defense that much, but they get players that doesn't defend, now they have someone that defends. So let's see if they play it well.
Yeah, we'll see how it impacts the likes of Jaden Ivey. Kate Cunningham is missing games here and there as well. So let's see how that plays out with Quentin Grimes. But yeah, not a must roster guy at the moment. This one was around Dan Gafford. We spoke at length about Dan Gafford going to the Mavs, so we'll move on from there. We spoke about the Raptors trading Dennis Schroeder to the Nets. We needed to clarify that Dennis Smith Jr. was not part of this, as I think Woj did tweet in one of his earlier tweets, but he's clarified that it was just Dennis Schroeder and then Thad Young. So we talked about Thad Young moving from the Raptors, perhaps opening up even additional minutes for Kelly Olynyk. Any further thoughts, guys?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of role that Schroeder plays. I was talking about this with Josh, but he was saying that it's most likely that he's going to be in a bench role. And if that's the case, then he's going to be producing similar production to what he had with the Raptors. It's literally going to be the exact same thing pretty much. But there's also that opportunity that he has a little bit more of a starting role, so long as Simmons is out and if any other injuries arise from that.
Exactly, yeah. Ben Simmons, he's not going to play every single game. So then there's that opportunity for Dennis Schroeder to come in, play some nice minutes. We know that it's pretty up and down in terms of Kayla. We love talking about him, but Cam Thomas as well, very the so-called one-dimensional player. He wasn't one of our favorites, but he's just been on a tear recently. So we'll see how that dynamic plays out. But yeah, not a huge trade this one, but still has some impact. This one had a little bit more impact for me. So PJ Washington going to Dallas, again solidifying that front court next to Derek Lively, next to Dan Gafford as well. So I think that's a real upgrade. They've sent away Grant Williams and Seth Curry back to the Charlotte Hornets, and they also sent away a first-round pick. So I think if you could have a win-win situation, I think it probably is a win for both franchises. You don't have too much to celebrate if you are a Hornets fan, but I think that's not too bad for them. And Miles Bridges is staying, which probably 24 hours ago we did not have. Didn't have that confidence moving into trade deadline.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I didn't trade Miles Bridges because I was considering it, but I didn't for whatever reason, and it really worked out. So I'm glad about that.
Absolutely. Any thoughts, Roy?
Yeah, I'm just happy for the Dallas Mavericks. All of their moves are smart moves, just because they're addressing what they actually need in their roster. So they're all in to really, come in a little bit stronger in the playoffs. But for me, this trade just kind of like dinged the Milwaukee Bucks, just because of they wanted the forward shift it, and then also it dinged teams that wanted a solid forward in their teams, the likes of GSW and the Los Angeles Lakers. So apparently, I just saw that the Lakers are actually trying to wait up for Jared Vanderbilt, because I was thinking if Jared Vanderbilt is out, it's good to get some forward. So it has an indirect impact out of the league, but specifically for Dallas, again, I'm looking at what Maxi Cleaver gives us in full minutes, because that could be PJ Washington right now.
Do you think PJ Washington loses value or gains value from this trade?
His value from Charlotte is wild. Sometimes it's good, mostly not. So I can't say if so. Earlier I mentioned that projection wise, rest of the season, he definitely lost value, because if he stayed in Charlotte, then there could be some opportunity with the Lamelo shutdown and all, right? Now in Dallas, I doubt there's more opportunity over that. But then again, his role isn't as big as his role in Charlotte most of the time. So I guess technically by a hair, it kind of like is good, just in a sense that he could probably play a role consistently. So if he takes that Maxi Cleaver role or the Grant Williams role, then I could see him as like a decent ad, possibly not a must ad, but could be like your 10th or 11th player in your roster.
Back end guy. Yeah. Kayla, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think his value rises very slightly, just because if he has that solidified spot in the starting unit, then that's better than what he had with the Hornets. And like we saw before, it's very inconsistent sometimes, where he'll give you a monster game, and then the next game he'll get you like nothing.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit better.
You've got, for me, it probably is even. He's got a more solidified role in the starting unit, as you said, Kayla, but his usage is going to be pretty low next to the likes of Luka and Kyrie. So I think it probably evens out, but I think he should be rostered. We do have a question here talking about former Hornets. Would you all drop, we're talking about Hayward here, would you all drop Smart, Hayward, or Melton for Bagley in a points league? Kayla?
I kind of want to say Smart. I think he's supposed to return sometime in late February. Like we mentioned this before, the Grizzlies are out of playoff contention, so they're not going to want to hurt any of their players, right? Like there's going to be minutes restrictions, potential shutdown, so I just don't see the value there. With Hayward, I'm kind of holding out some hope there. Melton too. We kind of got to see what happens with Buddy Hield and everything, but I think he'll still have decent value.
So Smart for you?
Smart.
That's a smart move. I concur with you. Roy?
Almost the same. Probably Melton for sure. I'll definitely won't drop Melton for Bagley. Hayward, maybe because earlier we're project Dimak and I were projecting Hayward's minutes in role. I see him as like a 20 to 25 minutes guy off the bench, taking away the Quezon Wallaces and all. But thing is, OKC's rotation is actually working. And the only player that was traded away was Trey Man, who isn't usually playing. The only players that usually gets additional playing time is either Isaiah Joe or Wiggins. So most likely Hayward takes those minutes. So maybe a low end, I know, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, one snipe type of player. If that's the case, I'd probably roll the dice on Bagley. But then again, Melton is sure I won't drop him.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Next one. So this is pretty low key, but talking about Royce O'Neal. So Brooklyn sent away Royce O'Neal to the Phoenix Suns. So we spoke about also David Roddy going to the Suns. Plethora of wing options for the Suns as well, which I guess it does take a bit of a hit to the likes of, I guess, Eric Gordon. Who else, guys? Who else is impacted? Grayson Allen,
Yep.
Grayson
perhaps
Allen.
as well, and Josh Okogie.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing here is a lot of people are asking who to stream from the Grizzlies now. Does this move open up some must-add players from the Grizzlies? And I don't think so. I think it's more with if you're going to stream from the Grizzlies, you really have to take it game by game and just take a look at that injury report first, see who's actually still alive, and then adjust as needed.
Pretty much, whoever's got a pulse, as you often say,
Whoever's got a
Kayla,
pulse.
selling that. Yeah, whoever's got a pulse, whoever's not on the injury list. No Xavier Tillman as well. So a lot of people are saying Santi Aldama. I think he's solid again if he's going to play. I
Mhm.
think he's a solid ad. Vince Williams, again, I think he's probably been very impressive. And you look at his numbers, top 100 guy over the last probably month. However, is he going to miss a lot of games? He's playing too well. They're gonna sit him because he's playing too well, and they're just in it to tank. I think they are tanking for draft picks. So it is a risky proposition with Memphis Grizzlies at this stage. Um, Moving forward, this one was funny. I spoke about this one. It sounded like Pat Bev actually announced his own trade, which is cool in a way. But he got in there before Woj and Shams. But yeah, Pat Bev going to the Bucks. Roy and I spoke about the culture that he'll bring, the hard-nosed sort of defense it'll also bring as well. So I think that's a nice acquisition for the Bucks. We did talk about maybe a point of difference for them in terms of defense. We did speculate around Alex Caruso possibly being a nice acquisition. I think he was probably asking too much, I would say, the Chicago Bulls. So that didn't go through. But Patrick Beverley, I think he'll help the Bucks. But again, it's not really moving the needle too much.
Yeah, I don't think there's any really fantasy relevance to these trades as much.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that's it in terms of the slide. Were there any other trades that went through or didn't go through that you'd like to discuss and give us your final thoughts?
Was there something that went through with Corey Joseph?
Yeah, Corey Joseph. We spoke about that one. That's real low key.
Yeah, that's nothing major, but
He went to the Pacers. Yeah, he went to the Pacers. So
interesting.
I don't even know if he'll be in the rotation with TJ McConnell and Andrew
Probably not.
Nembhard.
Really
Yeah.
surprising with the Bulls, though.
Surprising with the Bulls, surprising with
DeJounte Murray.
DeJounte Murray. So again, Atlanta not making any moves. And Roy and I spoke about the Lakers as well. Meant to be in it to win it with LeBron aging, AD. His body has held up pretty well this season, but who knows what will happen in future seasons. So yeah, any final thoughts, guys?
It's a little bit underwhelming, to be honest, but it was
Yeah.
still exciting just because of the waiting game, and then there were minutes wherein Woj is really beating us with the tweets, right? But I would number one, I would say congratulations, Woj. Woj won this fight against Shams.
I think he was the winner. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was more thorough with his tweets, more information. I think he got
Yeah.
in there before Shams a few times. So yeah, he's the winner.
He's the
Indeed.
winner. And then possibly I would like to have a round table quick questions about the winners and the losers. Because
Mm.
it's kind of like hard to come up with right now. But on top of
Mhm.
your heads, Kayla and Dimak, who are your top three, top three losers
If we're talking about
Mm.
players in terms of fantasy or real
in
life
general?
teams,
Fantasy and in general, anything about NBA right now, because I understand, like for example, Lakers could be a loser, right? So yeah, totally.
Kayla, would you like to go first?
Mm. I don't know. I gotta think about this one. I
Okay,
think
I'll step
Dejounte
in.
Murray would be a loser for me, to be honest with you.
Right, yeah.
That's a big one because I was kind of hoping that he would be traded to somewhere where he would have a more prominent role in the backcourt, kind of similar to something on the Spurs that he had before, and we all saw his production there. So yeah, I think it's a big disappointment. One winner though is D'Lo. I'm really happy that he's staying with the Lakers. He's someone that I have on my team, and I think his production is really great right now. He's turned around that rough slump that he was in, where he was pushed to the bench. So I think he's here to stay.
Yeah, good call. For me, I think Asar Thompson's biggest winner out
Yes.
of this one. Simone Fontecchio may take away some of that, but I think Asar has to be had. I think Marvin Bagley is another winner as well, and that's addition through subtraction, which you often see when it comes to trade deadline. It's not those that get moved to another team that gain value. It's often those that are left behind that gain value as well. So Bagley is one off the top of my head. I think they're the main two. And in terms of real life, the teams, I spoke about it earlier. I think Dallas Mavericks are the biggest winners, as well as the New York Knicks. So I think they're going to go up in the standings, one from the West, one from the East. And I think, like we said, the guys that were stagnant and didn't make any moves, those teams probably go backwards just through lack or absence of any movement. I think they're going backwards. So the Lakers in the West, Atlanta Hawks in the East, Chicago again, perennial disappointment. It's. I feel sorry for the fan base because I think they look forward to trade deadline and hopefully we get to make a move. But again, they're stuck with the big three and not getting anything back for them.
Yeah. For me, just to piggyback on that, I think fantasy wise, I would say all of the teams that Dimac mentioned are winners because
Yep.
they actually need to play more and stick to playing, especially the likes of their primary players, LeBron, AD, Curry, Draymond Green. So at least fantasy, we get to see them play more than expected, unless they lose like more games, right? Starting now. I also, on the contrary, for Dejounte Murray, fantasy wise, I think he's a winner because I think if he went to the Lakers, or I don't know who else was the rumored
It was
teams
the
that want
Pelicans too, but yeah, it would have
Pelicans.
decreased his
Yeah,
value.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would have decreased his value. So I think Dejounte Murray owners are a little bit of a winner because at
Yeah.
least for this season they get to enjoy Dejounte Murray. For me, one loser specifically, just because he's under my what I call this microscope, is from the New Orleans Pelicans, Trey Murphy the third, or TM3, and Dyson Daniels, and Herb Jones. Those three, they stuck together rest of the season. I was expecting any trade out of those three could actually pump a value again to the rest. Sneaky, I just want to sneaky say this to everyone. Dyson Daniels, top 5 in steals. If it's floating in your waiver wires, I think, and you need steals, you have to consider Dyson Daniels. And I was like quiet all along. I didn't tell anything about the New Orleans Pelicans because I have a lot of leagues. So I was thinking, oh, everyone's busy on the other teams. If someone gets traded, I'm gonna get any one of them. But
Oh,
unfortunately, not.
sneaky,
Yeah.
sneaky,
So
Roy. I
yeah.
like it. Yeah, it didn't happen. Didn't happen though.
Imagine if Herb Jones goes to the Milwaukee Bucks,
Yeah.
so he gets a solid value. Then Dyson Daniels and TMT gets value as well. So I'm thinking, oh, these are the three wings that whoever gets traded is a win-win for them. But it didn't
Mm,
happen. So
yeah.
bummer.
But I think that's a win for the New Orleans Pelicans. They're good young players, so I think
Yeah.
that's from a franchise perspective. When you were talking about guys that have benefited from people leaving, it made me think of Miles Bridges as well. So I know Kayla and I talked about him from day dot as a great pickup. Why aren't people picking him up? We were really confused. They weren't picking up probably for ethical reasons. It wouldn't have been for his basketball play. But he's been a humongous pickup for those that did get him. He's been a top 40 guy in 9-cat as well. In the last 3 weeks, he's been in the top 26. He's 26th ranked 9-cat. So I was thinking he played himself out of being traded. He did have that no trade clause as well. But it's great that he wants to be part of the Charlotte Hornets' future. They gave him a shot where everyone else was probably not going to give him that. We'll see if he's now going to play for a contract because he is in contract here.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I'm very glad that I decided to hold on to him. One loser I wanted to mention though, Hart. The Knicks
Yes.
had a lot of guys coming in, and Hart and DiVincenzo were two people that were, definite ads with Julius Randle out. But now I'm kind of questioning his role, his usage. I wouldn't drop him yet, but I kind of want to see how everything plays out. And plus, the Knicks are still dealing with 2 key injuries too.
Absolutely, yeah. With Boyan and Alec Burks joining, I think, yeah, great for the Knicks. Great depth, great shooting, good scoring, create their own shots as well in terms of Alec Burks. But it does hurt the value of Donte DiVincenzo, who's been on an absolute tear recently, as well as Josh Hart as well, to a lesser extent. But yeah, he's been definitely worthwhile on a roster. So we'll see how that plays out. There's still some short-term value, whilst, like you said, Kayla, whilst Julius Randle, OG Anunoby, I think is still sidelined for a little bit longer as well. All right, guys.
So, yeah.
If you guys have any other final thoughts, please let us know. Otherwise, we might wrap it up.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up, just want to say, solid night for Kayla. He's been jumping to several.
I'm jumping from show to show. I had work this morning. Oh my god, it was stressful, but it was fun.
Are you going on a Kingy show shortly? Is that later on?
Yeah, about 25 minutes.
Yeah, you did mention that.
Yeah.
Earlier.
The busiest people today. Number 1 is Woj. Number 2 is Shams. Kayla should be number 3, right, Dimac?
Exactly right.
Number 3.
Yeah. I'll put her up as number 2 ahead of Shams.
I would say so.
Shams has the Riz, but Kayla's been the busiest, I think.
Oh yeah.
Shams is busy being anxious for not tweeting a lot.
Well, I think he's just too busy with the charisma. He's
Yeah.
just too popular. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We will wrap it up. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you, Roy, for hopping on as well. And thank you, Kayla, of course, as a co-host of Between Two Hoops. We will be back probably across the weekend at some stage with our normal show as well. Papi would love to have you on our show again. Perhaps we'll have another post-trade deadline show at some stage as well. So we have a little bit of time to review it, see how things play out as well. And it would be great to assess it with all of you guys. But until next time, thank you so much, guys. We will see you later.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.